Hello, my name's Ian Seeger from Pilot Career News. On the 6th and 7th of November, we held our very first virtual edition of Pilot Careers Live. We streamed over 30 different seminars with 60 speakers. There were 2 days packed full of great information. Of course, we recorded everything, and you're about to watch one of the videos from the event. Before you do, I just want to thank our sponsors, Bose, Alsim, Entro, and of course Poolies. Without them and without the exhibitors, it wouldn't be possible. The exhibitor pages are still live, so feel free to head on over there, go to www.pilotcareerslive.com and click through to the exhibitors. There's loads of information, loads of downloads, all sorts of great stuff there for you. Anyway, enjoy the video, and if you find it useful, really appreciate it if you click subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first panel discussion session of the morning. This panel is about choosing the training route for me, and we are delighted to welcome a group of cadets and graduates, so past and present trainees, from a variety of different training providers who've also gone through either the integrated or modular route to share some of their experiences. We'll do our best to answer questions as they come through, so if you've got questions, I'll pass them on, but in the main we'll hold most questions for the Q&A panel later in the morning that these guys will be invited back to. Just a quick reminder to say a huge thank you to our sponsors. Sponsors are Bose, Alsim, Poolies and Entrol. If we didn't have those, we wouldn't be able to lay this on free for all of you visitors here today. And a reminder that if you want to buy anything from Poolies, you can quote the code PCL for a 5% discount at checkout, so that's worth using. Another reminder also, we've got loads of virtual exhibitors, so after the panel discussion, pop off and go and have a chat with some of the virtual exhibitors through the system that we have live for you. So, no further ado, let's get on and introduce our panel members today. We've got 5 panel members to talk about their training routes, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves because they know themselves better than I do. So, if I can ask you all just to make sure you're mute apart from the person that's chatting, because we've got some background noise. So, Bartimo, could I ask you to put your screen on mute, your mic on mute, please? Okay, so I'm going to come to Max first. Hi, Max. Welcome.
Hi, Karen. How's it going?
Hi. Yeah, good, thanks. Tell us a bit about you, and then we'll expand a little bit later.
My name's Max. I'm training on a integrated ACPL at Leading Edge Aviation. I am now onto my advanced part of our SCP flying before going on to the twin. So getting there, slowly but surely, but nearly.
Good. Progress is being made, which is good news. Exactly. Excellent. Thanks, Max. Jack, hi. Welcome.
Hi, Karen, you all right?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, my name's Jack. I'm an integrated student here at the National Flight Centre, based at Western Airport in Dublin. I am currently doing my MEIR. I've recently just passed my CPL test. And the accent might be a giveaway, but I'm not Irish. I'm from St Helens in Merseyside in the north of England there. So I moved over here to study. Again, a fully integrated student.
Cool, brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Jack. Adam, hello. Hi, welcome.
Hi, good morning, Karen. How's things?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good to have you all here.
Good. So my name's Adam. I'm at Atlantic Flight Training Academy here based in Cork International Airport. I'm on the Ryanair Mentored Programme and just currently coming up to my MEIR flight test. So pretty stressful times, but all in all, it's been very enjoyable and looking forward to getting it done and moving on to the APS NCC there. With the Ryanair SOP, so hopefully that all goes well and we'll be ready to rock and roll.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Adam. Thanks for sparing the time. I know it's a pretty stressful stage of training, so we appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Ben, hello. Welcome.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
Yes. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, Karen, I'm Ben. I took the modular route. I started in March 2017, modularly PPL. I did my ATPLs at Bristol Ground School and then went on to Wings Alliance. I did my CPL MEIR out in Poland at Bartolini. Got a job with Flybe, flying the Embraer for about 8 months. Saw that they were going down the pan, so jumped ship, got into Jet 2 and currently flying for Jet 2. Been on furlough since March though.
Cool. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Ben. Well, sorry you're on furlough, but glad you're in the airlines. That's good. That's good news. Thanks very much. And Bartimo, am I saying your name correctly? Do you want to take yourself off mute? Hi.
Hi. It's Bartolomeo in English. Yes. Yeah, Bart is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go. I'm called Bartholomew in English. I'm a first officer at Boeing Airlines. And I'm working as flight instructor, ground instructor here at Barcelona Flight School. And
Brilliant.
we'll
Okay.
Brilliant.
So that's brilliant. So we've got two people who are already in the Alliance. We've got a modular representative. We've got someone who's doing flight instruction, and we've got our ATPL integrated guys who are at various different stages of their training. And we've got someone on the Ryanair mentor program as well. So a really nice mix to pick your brains of through this session today. So the title of the session is Choosing the Right Training Route for Me. So let's kick off with that. What made you choose the route that you personally chose? And I'm going to really randomly pick people when I ask these questions. So be prepared. And I'm going to go to Jack first on that one, please.
Yeah, sure. For me, I always just thought the integrated route was best for me. It was a real personal choice. I wanted to have that fully immersive full-time course experience. And also for me, the way that the school do things, the layout of the course here was a big selling point for me. From what I've seen from doing research, it's a little bit different, the course. And the layout really appealed to me. So instead of diving headfirst into ATPLs, we started with like a 3-month blended learning phase where there was ground school. We did about 30, 40 hours in an aircraft, just getting everyone to that sort of PPL level. And then from then, that's when we jumped into ATPLs. We split the ATPLs up into 3-month phases. So it was 3 months. I think it was 8 subjects, 2 sittings. We went back into the aircraft for 3 months, and then back in to finish off the ATPLs, and that was 6 subjects over 2 sittings again. And for me, that just appealed to me. No rush with the ATPLs. Look, they're so important. Why rush them? The way that this course, was laid out, just really, I think it just suited me. And like I said, the integrated course, for me, having classmates, just that support network in exam time, it's just, exactly what I needed to get me through the course, I think.
Yeah, great. And that's a really important message. It's what appeals to you personally. That's why doing the research is so important, to go and talk to all the different providers and get all the different facts to work out what's best for you as an individual.
I think integrated versus modular is a bit of a hot topic.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a personal.
That will develop in this morning's discussion.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, it's a real personal choice. I think it's whatever suits you. Everybody has a different situation. Some people might not be able to do it. For me, I was very lucky. I had the opportunity, so I took it with both hands.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks. That is a slightly different route, the blended route. So I'm going to come over to Ben next and ask you, because you went the modular route, so you can give us a balance to that and why you chose the modular route for you.
I think modular for me, first and foremost, was the price, the cost. You're talking in some cases half the price. The other really big thing I liked about it was the flexibility. Now, I've got friends that it took them 5 years alongside a job. I was fortunate to do it full time. So I, between starting and being type rated on the Embraer, 2 years, was back months to train without the airline. And I like the flexibility of it. And if I was never really a theory guy at school, I was more of a hands-on practical guy. So I didn't really like the thought of someone stood in front of me for 8 hours a day talking to me. I'd much rather sit on my own and be able to take breaks when I needed to take breaks, which is what I did. Some days I could do 2 hours without stopping. Some days I'd need a break every hour. For me, it was really personal on that level, but it worked for me. I probably did it quicker and to a better standard than I would have if I'd have personally gone down the integrated route, because, as I say, I wouldn't be able to sit and be lectured at. It's just not my style. But that's why people are so different, and that's why the two courses have their pros and have their cons, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So the flexibility that the modular allows is a big appeal. And as you say, there can be quite a significant price difference, but there are often other costs that you don't necessarily see initially on the modular plan. So anybody else, Adam or Max or Bart, want to come in here about your reasons for Max, please. Thanks.
I think
I'm kind of alluding to what Jack says and going on that. I like the choice of an integrated course for me was sort of being familiar with your surroundings, and sort of having familiar contacts at the same place. So that was a key selling point for me. I do think there was an element of being young that you're very enthusiastic to just get out there and get started as soon as possible. You ignore maybe external factors that might make it, you know, a not impulsive decision, but it's worth doing your research to. I've seen since doing an integrated course the benefits of doing a modular course as well. So there was an element of just being really young and desperate to get into the airline industry, which, well, given the circumstances at the minute, might not be the best idea. But I do like the integrated course in terms of it's delivered in one place, and you're aware of who your people are, and you're with them from day one to the end.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Adam. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's the same as Max and what Jack was saying there. I've been out of school now for 13 odd years. So to do a modular course myself wouldn't have worked because I needed the structure of an integrated course, the instructors, the teachers in front of you, and being around your peers as well who are going through the same, the pressure of the ATPLs is huge. So having your peers around you that can help you out at the same time, they might have little tricks and stuff like that, which will stick in your mind to get through the ATPLs. So that's what I really needed, was the structure. I was just saying that to one of my friends that I tried to study at home last year, just for Christmas time, 2 weeks, try and get a head start, and it just didn't work. You need the environment. For myself anyway, I needed the environment of being in school. The instructors are there to help you every hour of the day, kind of thing. They're happy to send you out their mobile numbers, if you need to drop them a text, whatever it might be, just for a little bit of extra tuition. That's what I needed to push me through, and I managed to do it in the 6-month period with very good results. So it obviously works in my advantage. So very happy.
The immersion was really important for you then, Adam. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Bart, would you like to add anything more about the reasons you chose the route you did?
Well, I agree with all of you, but I would like to add something. It means not taking into account the flexibility, not taking into account the price. I would like to add the instrumental training, okay? Because if your choice is following or performing a modular course, you have to realize that you are going to perform a few instrumental course compared to an integrated. It means for a modulated course, maybe you're performing around 15, 20 of real instrumental training, real hours. And for integrated course, would you perform around 60, 70 hours? Means neither taking into account the simulator. I just would like to add this instrumental training that for me it's very important, flying for an airline.
Okay, thanks very much. That's a useful input. Thanks very much. So the additional instrument hours that you get on the integrated course. Ben, would you like to say anything in response to that as to how that's affected you in any way?
Sorry, it froze halfway through what Bart was saying, but I think I got the gist. He was saying that you get more hours integrated.
Yes.
Yeah, I just go off what I know, which was what I did, which was we spent about 35, 40 hours in a simulator as a pilot flying, and then did another 35 sim hours as the pilot monitoring. So we got about 70 hours in the sim. And in the real aircraft, I think we did about 20 hours, 25 hours. I felt up to scratch. I felt fine. Obviously, the more experience you can get, it is much better. But yeah, I mean, I felt when I went to do my APS course right at the end, I felt ready to go for the airline interview, which I had about 3 days later, and it went fine. So
yeah. It's personal choice again, isn't it? But it's about being aware of all the facts and knowing the detail that Bart has just added there that that perhaps people don't always spot when they're making that comparison between the two different routes. We've had a question through which has asked Jack, I think probably would be best here, to expand further on what the blended route is. They've said, please explain the blended route. And I know that your school's not the only school to do the blended route now, but I think probably it's not so widely known. So can you just briefly expand further? I know you did a bit earlier, so just briefly expand further.
Yeah,
on that.
so again, from day one, we do real basic flight training. So it was almost bringing everyone up to a PPL level. So we'd be in the classroom in the morning, we'd be flying in the afternoon. We'd have various classes along all the subjects that you would cover at a PPL level. And at the end of those 3 months, we actually did some in-house tests that would probably be to a PPL standard. So this was just all about getting everyone in the course on the same level. We've all come from different backgrounds. You know, some people came straight from school. Some, like myself, it had been 4 or 5 years since I'd been in a classroom from a degree. So there was almost a case of learning how to learn again.
Yeah.
So I think that's what that initial 3 months was for, just to bring everyone up to the same level. And then once we was there, we headed into the ATPLs. Like I said before, split up in between 2 sittings. Well, the whole of the ATPLs was split up over 4 sittings. So 3 months, 8 subjects, 2 sittings. And then 3 months of just hour building, just flying, really learning our craft. We had some ATPL classes in between. Let's say we've got a bad weather day, we can't go out flying. We do some ground school. And then at the end of those 3 months, we jump back into the classroom then, just to get the ATPLs finished off.
Okay,
and that,
so it'll allow some flexibility for the ATO as well to kind of take advantage of days where the weather's not so great for flying. You can fit something else into the programme. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it benefits us so much as well, because, you know, if there's a no fly day, we're sat in the classroom and we're learning. And I think that's, you know, that's great.
Yeah, okay. It's Adam, you're putting your hand up there. You'd like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add with Jack that it must be something they do here in Ireland, because Jack's realistically up the road from us. But at Atlantic Flight Training, they do the same thing there. The first initial 2.5, 3 months, we do the PPL syllabus, and it's just an in-house kind of syllabus at the time, just to see, you know, to build our knowledge up. We also do the flying as well, and I mean, to go into ATPLs, never having flown an aircraft beforehand, and to understand the different instruments that we have. I mean, to put that in perspective, you can see it visually happening in front of you. You can put that into like your theory side of aspect when it comes to the ATPL. So I think it's a great advantage to jump into the plane, get the basics under under your belt kind of thing, and jump into the ATPLs. And it's just, I think it helped me out massively to do that. So it's very good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam. Ben, yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch more on that, the modular, where you go and get your private license. Then you've got to do your hour building, 100 hours pilot and command hour building. It's a bit like when you get your driving license, you don't really start learning until you get your license. For me, I got my pilot's license and I was allowed to go off in the UK and start flying around to build those hours with no help from an instructor. That's when I started really learning, especially in terms of the physics behind flying and stuff, which was when I did start the ATPLs about 4 months, 5 months later, or during that time rather, when I came across these subjects, I could see what I was learning really in a practical way, because I could think back to hands on the aircraft at the time. Whereas I know some of my friends who have not done the modular route and gone through separate routes to kind of integrated but different schools to these chaps, they kind of been thrown in the deep end with the ATPLs, which for me would be really tough, because you've got really nothing to go off. It's pure theory, and for guys like me who are practical, that's a tough thing to do. That's another reason I liked the modular route, was because it was you could go as quickly as slowly as you wanted, but you also got to it was a hands-on course, I felt, really, which benefited in the ATPLs later on.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ben. Max, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I really do agree with what Ben's saying, and Jack and Adam as well, in terms of, I think hopefully the others will agree with me that the methods of learning instruments, for example, don't really actually make sense until you get in an aircraft itself. So I think the nature of an integrated course is starting to change to reflect that. So in terms of being in a classroom, all the time. It's quite difficult to grasp an understanding of it properly. And I know that they mentioned after, and Jack's flight school said that they do that as well. I know Leading Edge drop a knowledge, skills and attitude flight into ground school now, just to break it up and to enhance an understanding of what is actually going on.
Yeah.
One of the things of an integrated course is, obviously, as Ben said, you are in ground school for 6 months or 9 months or whatever the duration of it is. So it's a lot. It is helpful to break it up and to segment it and enhance an understanding by being in an aircraft itself. I think a big part of me with the integrated was literally to get ground school done, out of the way, and you know, that part of your training is done. But I definitely think that, yeah, the integrated course, especially over here, and as the other two have mentioned, is now changing to reflect a requirement to understand it a little bit better, even by using a simulator.
Yeah, the knowledge, skills and attitude piece is all about blending learning and making sure that there's some practical insights to learning at all the different phases. So it definitely is a way that things are going. But what's really, really clear is it's all about what will suit you as personal individuals when you're making that choice at the beginning. You know, what is going to work for you? And something Ben, you said, made me think, you know, you really properly need to understand what sort of a learner you are and what learning environment you need to bring the best of you out. It's a pretty intense learning process. So making sure that it's right for you is very important. So again, it's all part of the research and having conversations like this with people like these who can share their own experiences. I'm going to go to the questions, some of the questions that are coming in for the moment, just to make sure that we do answer some of those, because a couple of them are really, really useful again. So I've got a question from James, which is for Ben, and it's, how did you find the ground school? What was your revision schedule like? There's lots of questions, actually. Are there any prerequisites I need to do, i.e. SWAT up on my maths and physics? Hope you picked all the questions out of that, Ben.
Yeah, the revision schedule was, I can't remember who alluded to it earlier, but I think it was Jack saying that I was about 4 or 5 years out of school, so I had to learn again. Probably took me a month to actually get that revision schedule down. At the start, I could only really concentrate for about 50 minutes at a time, but I learned to be able to concentrate for longer periods. So my revision schedule really in the end was kind of get up at 8 a.m, quick shower, downstairs at the desk for about 8:30, and then I'd work until I needed a break. And I realized that the morning I could work for probably 2 hours, then I need a half an hour break. And as the day went on, I'd need to break more often. And I'd probably work until about 6 p.m. So it was long days. And I'd try and keep that to 5 days a week. I tried to keep my mind fresh. And I realized that if I worked 7 days a week, I'd start to get a bit stale. So I tried to take days off when I could, but days off where I was going to go out and do something, not sit around the house where I'm working. So I try and go out and, you know, take the dogs for a walk or go out with see my mates, for example. So what were the other questions?
I've just deleted them off the screen, but it was, do you need to SWAT up on your maths and physics?
No, I left school at 16. I've got no A levels.
Right.
I got C's at maths and physics. I wasn't really into school, if you like, but when it came down to it, down to doing the aircraft stuff, I just worked hard at that time. The physics side of things, I think if you have a passion for flying, you actually find quite enjoyable. And as for the maths, Principles of Flight's got a lot of equations, but it's, in a way, it's the amount of equations as opposed to how hard they are. You just got to remember the equations, you stick in the figures, and then you get an answer. It's just the sheer amount and the volume of stuff you've got to know, as opposed to how hard it is, I found. So maths and physics, it will help if you're really good at it. Don't sweat, because I wasn't hugely into maths and physics myself.
Okay, thanks for that. There's I'm going to come to you in just a sec, Max, but just to say that's one of the questions that came through is how important are A levels, and I think there you have your answer from what Ben's just answered. Not necessarily. Now, some airline programs, when they're running, do specify A levels, but they're not generally a requirement for going into a training program. But stand fast the fact that some airline requirements do exist. Max, you put your hand up.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to expand on what Ben was saying. I completely agree with him. I can remember being in one of my classes and my teacher said, right, well, you need maths, further maths and physics A level, and suddenly the pilot dream was null and void, because I was like, I cannot do them A level. I got into the course on A levels with nothing to do with those subjects, and I agree with, in terms of principles of flight, it's just knowing the equations. The equations are there, and then you just input the figures into them. It's nothing to do with actually having that. I think it helps to a certain extent, but there's no natural ability to be mathematically gifted in order to progress in this course in the way that everyone else does who is, let's say, stronger at that subject than you would be.
Brilliant. Thanks, Max. I just saw Bart put his hand up, so we'll just go to Bart for one more response to this, and then I'll move on to a different topic.
Okay, just I would like to add the level required for maths and physics. I think that is the level of high school for any ATPL course. It means for any engineering, it would be tougher and tougher than for the ATPL.
Yeah.
Just
as I say, some airline requirements are specific, but in general, I think you're right there, Bart. So yeah, thanks very much. So one of the questions that's come through is about selection and asking you guys what selection process you went through. And there's another question here about how you get onto the Ryanair mentor program. So Adam, that's naturally one for you. So can I ask you to sort of combine those two in your answer, if you wouldn't mind, Adam?
Yeah, not a problem, sure. When I did my assessment, it was back in April of 2019. So things have slightly changed now, but I believe it's called the CUT-E assessment aptitude test, which is in place now. But when I did mine, there was a lot of, there was the maths, the physics, the verbal reasoning, hand-eye coordination. We also did a simulator test. Now, it's not necessarily to see if you can fly the aircraft. It's you have an instructor sitting next to you, and they just want to see that you're able to, take information and learn at the same time. And it was just very simple tasks, which was fine, because having never sat in an aircraft before, it's a bag of nerves, but everything went really well. And then the final part was the interview that had the HR and the safety manager here. They gave me an interview, and it's just a general question, why do you want to do this? I have to basically prove to them that this is going to be a very good option for my future, because obviously the costs are quite substantial when it comes to flight training. So you have to show you're passionate about it. So after that was done, I was applied onto the Ryanair Mentor program, and as I say, through the whole assessment process there, we were graded with a scoring system. And then Ryanair will take a look at that, and if they feel you're a suitable candidate for the mentorship program, they will put you onto it. Which I was again fortunate enough to get onto it, so it's great. So to say that the CUT-E aptitude test now is slightly different from what I did there a year and a half ago. But yeah, I think it's going to be very similar in making sure that you have like just the basics and that you can do it. Now, when it comes to like the maths and physics, just like the rest of the guys said there, maths and physics were my strong points when I came into the assessment. But coming like through into ATPLs again, like you're just kind of taught what you need to know, and they'll help you through it. So I just kind of wanted to touch back on that. Like it's not a huge requirement. If you have a good understanding, you'll be fine. So,
I'm sure that'll be encouraging to many about the maths and physics.
Yeah, exactly.
There's definitely a theme coming through here in your responses. Lots of ATOs use the CUT-E or CUTE, various different ways of saying it. I've never quite worked out. But certainly lots of them use it. Has anybody amongst you had a slightly different selection process at all to roughly the one that Adam described? Max?
I think my selection process initially a different provider from Leading Edge, and they were using a different format at the time. But I think everyone is now using this. It seems pretty unanimous to me that everyone uses that system. I think Leading Edge definitely use it along with the group exercises and the individual interviews and everything. But I think as far as I know, out of the bigger flight schools, they've also phased in this CUT-E system as well.
Yeah, we had a great session today on selection, so it's worth watching that back, because you can watch all of the panel discussions and talks on demand now. So I would recommend going back and having another look at that selection session to understand a little bit more about selection and how to prepare for it. But yeah, thanks for those inputs, guys. The question that's come through is how would one choose between APS MCC and MCC Jock? Oh, who wants to answer that one? Oh, no. Go on, a volunteer. Otherwise, Ben, good start. Thanks.
I think the APS, I did the APS MCC with the Wings Alliance, Bristol Ground School, and for me, it was that last point of training whereby they kind of had a few airline connections. One was Flybe at the time, and for me, it was going all out at the very end of my training. Most of the way through training, modular, you're just doing what everyone else is doing. But then for me, when it came to the APS MCC, I kind of wanted to do the best course I could possibly do, get the highest achievement, which is the APS MCC. I think is technically the higher level. Both work, and yeah, for me it was just that all out push. Once you finish flight training, the hardest thing is then getting a job. And my provider had connections with Flybe. Granted, you passed the course. I passed the course, and I had a job a week later. So for me, it was not only the training aspect of it. Was we get about 20 hours more in the simulator. There's ground school to go with it. Instead of being a 5-day course, it's actually like a 3-week course. So you're immersed in it, and especially when you've got that up and coming type rating, but before that you've got the airline interview coming up, which is a simulator. You are thrown in, like Adam said, you are thrown in the deep end completely. You sit in a simulator under exam pressure with a captain and an instructor behind you. I wanted to be as prepared as I possibly could, and for me, the APS giving us another 20, I think, hours in the simulator as opposed to the APC was a bit of a no-brainer. When it did come down to the airline interview that I had, I'd been immersed in this cockpit environment for, twice the amount of as the other guys that had not gone through that. Granted, it is a lot more expensive, but at the end of the day, for me, it was, I've spent all this money already. It's only in the grand scheme, it's a small amount to pay extra to really make sure I nail that airline interview. Which eventually is what happened. So
yeah. Jack, thank you. Thanks, Ben. Jack put his hand up. I'm going to go to Jack and then move on to another subject just whilst we've got the last few minutes to go. And I'm going to give you a heads up as to what the last subject is going to be, guys. And that is, what advice would you give to somebody looking at training now? So putting yourself in their situation, what advice would you give? But just going to go back to Jack to finish off on the APS versus MCC.
Yeah, I think Ben actually touched on what I was actually going to say towards the end. I think it is very much a personal choice. It's a debate that we're having in my class at the minute, MCC or APS. And personally, for me, I think extra hours in the logbook can only be a good thing. And look, in the grand scheme of things, that little bit extra cost, what we've paid already, if it's the one thing that helps us get a job, then it's going to be worth it. Now, there's no rush at the moment. It's not something of, there's no time pressure at the minute. But if it's something that's going to help us get that edge, then it can only be a good thing.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Jack. So, my last question, there are more questions on that have come through, but we do have a Q&A panel later, and we'll hold some of those for then, because I want to make sure that we stay on time for everybody here. And some of the questions are about funding, interestingly, which you guys have just touched on. And again, it's worth watching one of the sessions we did yesterday, the cadet panel we did yesterday afternoon, because a couple of the guys there talked about how they'd funded their training, one of whom had funded it through crowdfunding. So there are unique ways of doing it, and maybe if you guys come back to the panel later, you've got any personal examples, you could share those with us. But please, to finish this morning's session with you guys, I'd really like an insight as to what your advice would be to somebody thinking about training now. What would you say to them? Put yourself in their shoes. And I'm going to come to, thank you, Adam. Perfect, in the first.
Thank you very much. I can say what my experience was when I came over to Atlantic, and I did have a look at other schools. Is obviously do your homework beforehand. It's very important to make sure the school is going to be the right one for you. The training route, if you wanted to be on the Ryanair mentor program, there's only a select few schools that offer it. So when I was looking, number one was, fortunately, my brother works for Ryanair, so I had a very good insight in how Ryanair operated. I wanted to be with Ryanair. That was the dream. So number one was quite important to me. Number two was the family feel of a school, rather than just being a number. Like you can walk past from the CEO of the school here to any of the flight instructors. They all knew you by name, and to me that was a huge thing, to feel like a family member rather than just a number of the school. Which again, like that was massive for me. I don't know if it's just the Irish way; they're very polite and nice people, but that was huge. But just be passionate about it, and obviously, anyone that's here today watching this is obviously passionate about aviation, wanting to get as a career as a pilot, and just follow your dreams. A bit of hard work goes a long way. Again, I thought 14 ATPLs is going to be impossible for me to do, but I mean, a bit of hard work got me through it in the 6-month period. So just follow your dream. That's all I can say. Go have a look at schools, make sure they are the right ones for you. You'll get a feel instantly as soon as you walk through the door, this is going to be a good school for me or not. That's all I can say.
Thanks, Adam. Jack put his hand up, so I'm going to come to Jack next, and then we are a little tight on time. So the other three, if I can ask you to be prepared to do a real quick snapshot, that'd be brilliant. Jack.
Yeah, I just thought I'd follow Adam, seeing as we're promoting Ireland. Of course, find the right school for you. Visit schools, ask, don't be afraid to ask questions. I went to see quite a few schools, and in some of the days, you almost felt a little bit unable to ask questions. Ask as many questions as you want. That was a great, like what Adam said, here at the National Flight Centre, there's an open door policy. You can walk upstairs to the top floor, speak to the owners, any issues you've got, speak to the head of training, speak to the CFI. Having a dedicated training facility at an airport, it's finding the right school for you that feels right. I couldn't stress that enough. Just finding something that's going to work for you. Yeah,
thank you. Who wants to go next? Max.
My biggest advice would be to make sure you're the course, make sure you're aware that you're the customer, and you are at the end of the day going to be a customer at this flight school as well as a student, and largely try not to be impulsive. It can be a really difficult thing to avoid and sway to not be really rushed, but take your time to get to know the course, know what you want, know the right flight school for one, and just make sure you're rounded on all fronts to come into this course with your feet running.
Thank you, Max. Ben.
The thing I would say is that the chaps are completely right in saying it's right for you. I'm going to kick up a bit of a fuss here. The current climate, the airline industry is struggling, obviously, as we all know. It's going to be for a couple of years. If I were to do it again, there would be no doubt for me that I'd do modular, just to space it out, take your time and time it for when the airline industry picks back up again. Like, the last thing I'd want to do is tie myself into a course that finishes me in 18 months and then I'm stuck and need to pay to keep myself current. For me, the best way to do it would be just to take your time. I've got mates who have done it over a 5-year period whilst they've worked, debt-free now, and flying online. So take your time, go to the school and enjoy your training as well.
Great, thank you, Ben. And Bart.
Hi. Following the advice is just as always, as usually, adding the comparison of fleet and experienced flight instructors as well. Even the weather, even make sure the kind of type of the ATPL course, but always, because of the bottleneck, always for the flight school is during the flying training. Okay, that means make sure of the fleet, make sure of the multi-engines aircraft, etc., and also for the experienced flight instructors as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Some great tips there. Thank you all very much for all of your inputs. They've been excellent. Again, I'm going to ram home this point. It is about doing your research and finding out the right route for you. So you can hear just from these guys, they've all got different opinions, and everybody's opinions are perfectly right, but it's got to be your personal decision at the end of the day. So thanks, guys. They're going to come back hopefully for the Q&A panel later. Don't forget now to have a chat with the ATOs that are here as well, whilst you have the chance. And also just bear in mind there is another route as well, the helicopter route. So there's a session this afternoon with Heli Centre Aviation, which might be worth tuning into as well, just to look at, to consider your routes. We're going to close now. The next is an interview with John Strickland. So thanks very much, everybody. Thank you.